Let me bring in Fred Hagen. You've been a passenger on board the Titan twice, in fact, with Paul-Henri. So you know him better than most. You also know this vessel extremely well. What are your thoughts right now? Do you believe there's hope, or are we really at the end game, do you fear?
As long as there is hope, we have to make every effort to rescue them. And I have to tell you, Piers, thank you so much for your eloquent introduction. It articulated exactly what I've been telling people, that this human beings are differentiated from animals by that divine spark that wants us to achieve, wants us to go further and deeper and faster. And that's what distinguishes those gentlemen. And I'm really tired of the negativity, people trying to tear Stockton. Here's a man who's like trying to democratize the depths. He's trying to come up with a new technology. He's pushing the envelope, and he's using the wealth of businessmen to fund what should have been funded by the U.S. government and by governments to research the depths of the ocean, because the depths of the ocean are fundamental to our future. That's where we're going to find the elements to power the green economy. And I've seen the same remarks you're talking about, even on my social media feed, people talking about how could we spend this money to rescue these billionaire businessmen. Well, I'm going to tell you why we do that. We would do it even if they were homeless children sitting in a cave, because the world arises to that challenge. And the poor we will have with us only. Jesus said that, and that you can't go to a better source than that. And I would also say that this is an opportunity for the government to pay tribute to the private enterprise that is driving the technology that will be required to explore inner space, much as private technology is exploring outer space. So kudos to Stockton for taking that risk, for moving forward. And, you know, it's like the Wright brothers. When they took that first flight and they released from the bonds of Earth, they had no backup. They had no safety plan. If they'd have crashed and gotten killed, they still would have been the first to fly. He is the first person who's trying to democratize the depths. And my hat's off to him.
Let me ask you, Fred, you've been on Titan. So what are the conditions likely to be like if they're still alive and this sound, this banging sound, is indeed them expressing an SOS call for help? What would those conditions be like inside there right now if they are right down near the Titanic?
Well, it's horrifying for me to think of. Last year when I was down with PH, the titanium nose, it seeps in the icy cold because the water down there is at a freezing level, and it condenses. And there would be sitting on the mats in the back of the submersible, but it's a very small space. So the five of them must be laying side by side. And, if PH is sending these messages on a regular basis, he's doing so and he's doing it every 30 minutes to establish that this is a man-made pattern. And he's doing it because it's also giving those five people something to occupy their thoughts. And the rest of the time, he would be having all of them sleeping because they would consume the least amount of oxygen. So they're resting, they're sleeping, and then every hour they're getting up and they're knocking on the shell of that submersible. That's what I hope is happening, and that's what PH would do.
And in terms of the amount of oxygen they have, we're told that by about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning UK time, the amount of oxygen runs out. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding, and it would be heartbreaking to consider that a man as warm and wonderful and dynamic as PH could be lost to the world. I will personally feel impoverished. And I got to tell you, if I could make a personal comment, and I've said this before, I feel convicted because last year, PH, when we got down to the Titanic, he actually sat in that titanium nose. It's freezing cold, it's full of condensation, and he had slippers on, which everyone wore except me. I took these soft-soled Uggs with sheepskin lining. I meant to buy him a pair before he went, and I keep thinking of him down there in this cramped, claustrophobic quarters with his feet frozen. And I just, I can't forgive myself for the simple act of not sending him the boots that I intended to. I know that sounds absolutely ludicrous.
No, it doesn't actually. It sounds very human and very caring, and exactly how I would feel in that situation. And it's the whole thing is a heartbreaking situation. These are people who love what they do and are part of history when they go down and find stuff and bring it back up for the world to see. But there is another side to this.
Piers,
Yeah,
if
sorry.
I could interject,
Yeah.
just one thing I'd like to say, because you have referenced the people that are talking about how outrageous it is for us to spend this time and money. I want to remind those people that 93% of the taxes paid in this country are paid by businesses through tax and remittances. And we are now returning that favor by seeking them out. And we would do that even if they were impoverished. But we do that because in the Western world, we put no price on human life.
No, I
We
totally
stop at
agree.
nothing.
Listen, I find that politics of envy stuff just ridiculous in a situation like this.